I should have known something was wrong when Rachel started cooking dinner. My wife hadn't touched the stove in 3 months, not since she'd discovered that new Thai place that delivered until midnight. But there she was, standing over a pan of sizzling chicken, her blonde hair pulled back in that messy bun that used to drive me crazy in college. Now it just looked calculated. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "You're home early," she said without turning around. Her voice had that edge to it, the one that meant we were about to have one of those conversations that started about dishes and ended with her crying in the bedroom while I slept on the couch. Traffic was light. I set my laptop bag down and loosened my tie. Our smart home's ambient lighting shifted to evening mode, casting everything in that warm glow that was supposed to make us feel cozy and connected. Instead, it felt like being trapped in a fishbowl. Rachel finally turned around, and I could see the storm brewing in her green eyes. She'd been building up to this for weeks, maybe months. The signs were all there. The way she'd started putting her phone face down during dinner, how she'd suddenly developed a passion for after-work drinks with her marketing team, the mysterious new gym membership that never seemed to result in actual workouts. "We need to talk, Daniel." There it was. 4 words that had probably ended more marriages than infidelity and financial problems combined. I grabbed a beer from our stainless steel refrigerator and waited for the hammer to fall. "I can't do this anymore," she continued, gesturing vaguely at the space between us. Whatever this is we're doing, you're suffocating me." I took a long sip of beer and considered my response. 3 years of marriage had taught me that anything I said right now would be wrong. If I got defensive, I was proving her point. If I stayed calm, I was being dismissive. If I tried to fix things, I was being controlling. "How exactly am I suffocating you?" I asked, genuinely curious. "You always need to know where I am, who I'm with, what I'm doing. You check my phone when you think I'm not looking. You track my location on that stupid app." She wasn't wrong about the location tracking, but that had been her idea originally. "For safety," she'd said when she'd insisted we both install the app. "So we always know the other person is okay." "You asked me to install that app," I pointed out. "That's not the point." Rachel slammed the spatula down on the counter. "The point is that I feel like I can't breathe in this relationship. I need space, Daniel. I need to feel like I have some control over my own life." Control. That was an interesting word choice. I studied my wife's face, noting the way her jaw was set, the defensive posture of her shoulders. This wasn't about control at all. This was about guilt. "Okay," I said simply. Rachel blinked, clearly thrown off by my response. "Okay, what?" "You're right. You don't have to tell me where you are or who you're with. I won't ask anymore." She stared at me for a long moment, suspicion creeping into her expression. "Just like that?" "Just like that." I pulled out my phone and, with deliberate slowness, turned off location sharing. Then I deleted the tracking app entirely. "There. You're free." The chicken was starting to burn, filling the kitchen with the smell of charred meat and Rachel's miscalculation. She turned off the burner with more force than necessary. "I'm going out," she announced, already heading toward the bedroom. "Girls' night with Olivia and the team." "Have fun," I called after her, and meant it. For the first time in months, I genuinely didn't care where my wife was going or who she was meeting. 20 minutes later, Rachel emerged in a black dress that was definitely not meant for a casual girls' night. Her makeup was perfect, her perfume expensive, and applied with the kind of precision that suggested an audience of one very specific person. "Don't wait up," she said, grabbing her purse and keys. "Wouldn't dream of it." The door slammed behind her, and I was alone with the smell of burned chicken and the quiet hum of our smart home's various electronic systems. I finished my beer and opened another, then settled into my home office to do something I probably should have done months ago. I started planning. The next morning, Rachel was gone before I woke up. Her side of the bed was cold, and there was a coffee mug in the sink with lipstick stains that didn't match the makeup she'd been wearing the night before. She'd come home, changed her lipstick, and left again. The attention to detail was almost impressive. I made my own coffee and checked my phone. No messages from my wife, but there was a text from Kyle, my office buddy, and the closest thing I had to a best friend since college. "Dude, saw Rachel at Morrison's last night with some guy. Thought you should know." Morrison's wasn't exactly a girls' night kind of place. It was the type of upscale bar where marketing executives went to impress clients and cheat on their spouses. I texted back, "Thanks for the heads up." At work, I couldn't concentrate on code. My mind kept drifting to Rachel's words from the night before. She wanted control over her own life. She wanted space. She wanted freedom from my suffocating presence. I could give her that. In fact, I could give her more than she'd bargained for. During my lunch break, I walked to the coffee shop across from Rachel's marketing agency. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see her at her desk, laughing at something on her computer screen. She looked happy in a way she hadn't looked at home in months. "Daniel?" I turned to find Olivia Martinez standing behind me, holding 2 cups of coffee. Rachel's best friend since college, art curator at the downtown gallery, and the person who probably knew more about my marriage than I did. "Olivia, hey." I tried to look casual, like I hadn't been stalking my wife's workplace. "Want to grab a table? I was just picking up coffee for Rachel, but she can wait 5 minutes." We sat by the window, and Olivia studied my face with the same intensity she probably used to evaluate paintings. "So," she said finally, "how are things?" "Honestly, I think my marriage is over." Olivia didn't look surprised. "Rachel's been struggling lately. With feeling trapped, I mean. She talks about it a lot." "What else does she talk about?" Olivia hesitated, then sighed. "There's this guy at work, Ethan. He's the creative director, divorced, thinks he's God's gift to advertising. Rachel's been interested. Interested enough to meet him at Morrison's last night? You know about that?" "I know about a lot of things. The question is, what am I going to do about it?" Olivia leaned forward, her dark eyes intense. "What do you mean?" I took a sip of coffee and considered how much to reveal. Olivia had always been the more practical of Rachel's friends, the one who called out bad behavior instead of enabling it. She might be exactly what I needed. Rachel wants freedom and control. I'm thinking about giving her a taste of what that actually looks like. I'm listening. Over the next hour, I laid out the beginnings of a plan. Nothing illegal, nothing that would permanently damage anyone's career or reputation, just a carefully orchestrated lesson in consequences. "You want to make her jealous," Olivia said when I finished. "I want to make her understand what she's throwing away. And I want to do it in a way that she can't blame on my controlling behavior." Olivia was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at Rachel's building. "She's been complaining about you for months," she said finally. "To anyone who'll listen. About how you don't understand her, how you're holding her back, how Ethan makes her feel alive again. And how does that make you feel? Listening to her trash your friend's husband. Honestly, it pisses me off. You're a good guy, Daniel. You don't deserve this. So you'll help?" Olivia smiled, and there was something almost predatory in her expression. "What did you have in mind?" That evening, I booked 2 tickets to Paris. First class, departing Friday morning, returning Sunday night. Then I went shopping for a new wardrobe. Nothing too dramatic, just clothes that fit better and made me look like someone who might be worth pursuing. When Rachel came home that night, again, very late, again with that telltale change of lipstick, I was already in bed, apparently asleep. "Daniel," she whispered. I didn't answer. Let her wonder what I was thinking, what I knew, what I was planning. For the first time in our marriage, I was going to be the one with secrets. Friday morning, I left for the airport while Rachel was in the shower. I didn't say goodbye, didn't leave a note, didn't respond to her sleepy, "have a good day" from behind the bathroom door. By the time her plane landed in Paris that evening, my phone was buzzing with messages. "Where are you?" "Daniel, I'm trying to call you." "This isn't funny. Call me back." "I'm worried. Please just let me know you're okay." I turned my phone to airplane mode and enjoyed my first real meal in months. The restaurant Olivia had chosen was perfect. Intimate lighting, excellent wine, and a view of the Eiffel Tower that would photograph beautifully. "To freedom," Olivia said, raising her glass. "To consequences," I replied. We spent the weekend playing tourist, and I have to admit, I enjoyed myself more than I had in years. Olivia was smart, funny, and refreshingly honest about everything from art to relationships to Rachel's increasingly self-destructive behavior. "She's been different since she started working with Ethan," Olivia told me as we walked along the Seine. "More selfish, more willing to hurt people to get what she wants." "And what does she want?" "To feel important, desired, like she's the star of her own movie instead of just someone's wife." On Sunday afternoon, we took the photo. Nothing scandalous. Just the two of us at a cafe, looking comfortable and happy together. Olivia posted it to Instagram with the caption, "Sometimes the best trips are the unexpected ones. Paris, with a friend. Life is beautiful." My phone exploded. The flight home was turbulent, which seemed appropriate. I spent most of it reading Rachel's increasingly frantic messages, watching her emotional state deteriorate in real time. "Who is she? How long has this been going on? I can't believe you would do this to me. We need to talk. Now." By the time I walked through our front door Sunday night, Rachel was waiting in the living room like a lawyer preparing for cross-examination. She'd clearly been crying, but her makeup was fresh and her posture was aggressive. "How could you do this to me?" she demanded, before I'd even set down my luggage. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and felt nothing but mild curiosity about what she'd say next. "Do what to you, exactly?" "Don't play dumb, Daniel. I saw the photo. You and Olivia in Paris. How long have you been cheating on me?" The irony was so perfect, I almost laughed. "I'm not cheating on you, Rachel." "Then explain the photo." "You told me I didn't have to tell you where I was or who I was with. Remember? You said you needed space and control over your own life. I decided you were right." Rachel stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. That's not the same thing." "Isn't it?" "No. This is different. This is—" She struggled to find words that would make her betrayal somehow more acceptable than my weekend away. "This is revenge. This is freedom. The same freedom you've been enjoying with Ethan." The color drained from Rachel's face. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Morrison's Bar. Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday nights for the past 3 weeks. The Marriott downtown last Wednesday afternoon. You told me you were at a client meeting, but your location ping showed you were 2 miles away from your office. Should I go on?" "You were tracking me. You said you deleted the app." "I did delete it, from my phone. But you forgot that we share an iCloud account and your location services are still active. I didn't have to track you, Rachel. You were broadcasting your affair to anyone with access to our shared data." Rachel collapsed onto the couch, the fight going out of her all at once. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" She looked up at me with tears in her eyes, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I was confused and lonely, and Ethan made me feel special." "How did he make you feel special? Was it when he told you about his wife's drinking problem? Or when he explained how his divorce was all her fault? Maybe it was when he mentioned that rash he's been dealing with. You know, The one he's been getting treated at the clinic on 5th Street? Rachel's face went white. How do you know about that? I know a lot of things, Rachel. I know that Ethan's been telling the same sob story to at least 3 different women at your agency. I know that his amicable divorce involved a restraining order and allegations of financial abuse. I know that he's currently under investigation by HR for inappropriate relationships with subordinates. None of that was entirely true, but it didn't need to be. The look on Rachel's face told me that enough of it rang true to be believable. You're lying. Am I? When's the last time Ethan introduced you to his friends? Has he ever taken you anywhere you might run into his colleagues? Does he ever answer his phone when you call during business hours? Each question hit its mark. Rachel's carefully constructed fantasy was crumbling in real time. I want you to leave, she said quietly. This is my house too, Rachel. I'm not going anywhere. Then I'll leave. Where will you go? To Ethan's place? Has he invited you over yet? Or are you still meeting in hotel rooms because he doesn't want you in his personal space? Rachel stood up abruptly, her face flushed with anger and humiliation. I hate you. No, you don't. You hate that you got caught. You hate that your perfect little fantasy is falling apart. And you hate that you can't control this situation the way you controlled everything else in our marriage. She stormed toward the bedroom, then turned back. This isn't over, Daniel. No, I agreed. It's not. Monday morning brought a new phase of warfare. Rachel had clearly spent the night strategizing because she emerged from the bedroom dressed for battle, her best power suit, perfect makeup, and an expression that could have frozen hell. I'm going to tell everyone what you did, she announced over coffee. Olivia, your friends at work, my family, everyone's going to know what kind of man you really are. What kind of man am I, Rachel? The kind who lies and manipulates and cheats on his wife. I almost admired her commitment to the narrative. In her mind, she was the victim of my sudden, inexplicable betrayal. The months of her own affair had been reframed as a reasonable response to my controlling behavior. Go ahead, I said. Tell them. She blinked, thrown off by my calm response. You don't think I will? I think you'll try. But first, you might want to ask Olivia how she feels about being used as a weapon in your guilt management strategy. At work, I could barely focus on debugging the new client portal. My phone buzzed constantly with updates from the Rachel situation. First, a confused text from my mother-in-law asking if everything was okay because Rachel had called crying about our marriage. Then, a message from Kyle asking if I wanted to grab lunch and talk about whatever's going on. But the most interesting message came from Olivia. Rachel called me screaming about Paris, told her exactly what I thought about her behavior. We're no longer friends. How's the war going? I smiled and typed back, just getting started. The real escalation began Tuesday afternoon. I was in a meeting when my phone lit up with a call from Rachel, then another, then a series of increasingly frantic texts. Ethan's not answering his phone. Something's wrong. He missed our lunch meeting. Did you do something? I hadn't done anything to Ethan directly, but I had made a few strategic phone calls. Nothing illegal or unethical, just some carefully placed conversations with mutual contacts in the marketing world. Word travels fast in professional circles, especially when it involves someone with Ethan's reputation for boundary issues. When I got home that evening, Rachel was pacing in the living room like a caged animal. What did you do to him? She demanded. To whom? Don't play games, Daniel. Ethan, what did you do? I didn't do anything to Ethan, but other people might have. Turns out his reputation in the industry isn't as solid as he led you to believe. Rachel's face crumpled. You ruined his career. I made some phone calls. I shared some publicly available information. I may have mentioned to a few people that he has a pattern of pursuing married women at work. Everything I said was true, Rachel. If that ruins his career, maybe he should have thought about that before he started sleeping with other men's wives. You had no right. I had every right. He's been sleeping with my wife for months. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? Rachel sank onto the couch, her perfect composure finally cracking. This is all wrong. This isn't how this was supposed to happen. How was it supposed to happen? You were going to leave me for Ethan, and I was going to just accept it quietly. Maybe send you a nice wedding gift when you got remarried. I never said I was leaving you for him. Then what exactly were you doing, Rachel? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you were trying to have the best of both worlds, a stable marriage and an exciting affair. You wanted to keep me as your safety net while you explored your options. She didn't deny it, which was answer enough. I want to work this out, she said quietly. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. Can we? Because I'm not sure there's anything left to fix. That night, Rachel tried a different approach. She cooked dinner, actually cooked it, without burning anything. She opened a bottle of wine, lit candles, and attempted to recreate the romantic atmosphere of our early relationship. Remember our first apartment? She said over pasta that was actually edible. That tiny place with the broken air conditioner and the neighbors who played music too loud? I remember you complaining about it constantly. I wasn't complaining. I was dreaming out loud about the life we were going to build together. And now we have that life. The house, the careers, the financial security, everything you said you wanted. But somewhere along the way, we lost each other. I studied my wife's face in the candlelight. She was beautiful, intelligent, successful. On paper, we were the perfect couple. But I felt nothing looking at her except a mild sadness for what we'd once been. Maybe we did, I agreed. Or maybe we just became people who were never meant to be together long term. Rachel reached across the table and took my hand. We can find our way back, Daniel. I know we can. For a moment, I almost believed her. Almost let myself get pulled back into the familiar dance of reconciliation and resentment that had defined our marriage for the past year. Then my phone buzzed with a text message. Rachel's eyes flicked to the screen, and I saw her face change as she read Olivia's name. Are you still in contact with her? She asked, her voice tight. We're friends, Rachel. We had a nice weekend together. We're planning to do it again sometime. You're doing this to hurt me. I'm doing this because I want to. Because for the first time in years, I spent time with someone who actually enjoys my company, someone who doesn't see me as an obstacle to her happiness or a problem to be managed. Rachel pulled her hand back as if I'd burned her. That's not fair. Isn't it? When's the last time you laughed at one of my jokes? When's the last time you asked about my work because you were genuinely interested, not because you were looking for ammunition for an argument? When's the last time you looked at me the way you look at your phone when Ethan texts? She couldn't answer, because we both knew the truth. Our marriage had been over long before her affair began. The affair was just the excuse we'd both been looking for to stop pretending. I think you should stay at your sister's for a while, I said quietly. This is my house too. Yes, it is. But right now, I don't think either of us can think clearly with the other person around. Take some time. Figure out what you really want. Because I'm done being your backup plan. Rachel stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. Fine. But this conversation isn't over, Daniel. No, I agreed. It's not. Rachel moved out on Thursday, taking enough clothes for a week and a wounded dignity that would probably last much longer. She left behind her wedding ring on the kitchen counter, not thrown dramatically, just placed there like a receipt she no longer needed. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt empty. Friday evening, Olivia came over with Thai food and a bottle of wine. We ate on the couch and talked about everything except Rachel and the elaborate game we'd been playing. Do you feel guilty? She asked finally. About which part? Any of it. All of it. I considered the question seriously. No. I feel sad that it came to this, but not guilty. Rachel made her choices. I just stopped pretending they didn't have consequences. And us? Do you feel guilty about us? That was more complicated. Olivia and I hadn't crossed any physical lines in Paris. We'd been careful about that. But there had been an intimacy to the weekend that went beyond friendship, a connection that felt both natural and like a betrayal of everything I'd built with Rachel. I don't know what we are, I admitted. We're two people who got tired of watching someone we cared about destroy herself and everyone around her, Olivia said. We're friends who found something we weren't looking for. And what happens now? Now we figure it out, without Rachel's drama clouding everything. But Rachel wasn't done with drama. Saturday morning brought a phone call from her sister Jenny, demanding to know what I'd done to make Rachel so upset. She's devastated, Daniel. She says you've been cheating on her and trying to destroy her career. That's an interesting interpretation of events. So you're not denying it? I'm not dignifying it with a response. If Rachel wants to tell people her version of the story, that's her choice. But I'm not going to defend myself against accusations that are designed to make her feel better about her own behavior. Jenny was quiet for a moment. She's been different lately, more volatile. Mom's worried about her. Maybe you should ask her about Ethan. Who's Ethan? So Rachel hadn't told her family about the affair. Interesting. She was willing to paint me as the villain, but not willing to admit her own role in the marriage's collapse. Ask Rachel, I said, and hung up. Sunday afternoon, I was working in my home office when the doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I could see Rachel standing on the porch with a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, well-dressed, and had the kind of aggressive posture that suggested he thought intimidation was a valid negotiation tactic. I opened the door, but didn't invite them in. Rachel, and you are? This is my lawyer, Rachel said, her voice artificially steady. We need to discuss the terms of our separation. The lawyer, who looked like he'd graduated from law school about 15 minutes ago, stepped forward. Mr. Thompson, I'm Brad Morrison. I represent your wife in this matter. What matter would that be? The dissolution of your marriage and the division of assets. I looked at Rachel, noting the way she was avoiding eye contact. You filed for divorce? I filed for legal separation, with the option to convert to divorce proceedings if necessary. Interesting. And what exactly are you separating from? The marriage you destroyed with your affair or the consequences of your choices? The lawyer cleared his throat. Mr. Thompson, I'd advise you not to make accusations without evidence. What kind of evidence would you like? Text messages? Hotel receipts? Witness statements from the 3 different people who saw my wife with her boyfriend at various restaurants around the city? Rachel's face went pale. Daniel, please. Please what? Please pretend this is all my fault? Please make this easy for you by accepting blame for the marriage you checked out of months ago? We just want to handle this civilly, the lawyer said. Civil. Right. Is it civil to cheat on your spouse for months, then blame them for the marriage falling apart? Is it civil to try to destroy someone's reputation to cover your own guilt? I looked directly at Rachel. You want a separation? Fine. You want a divorce? Also fine. But you don't get to rewrite history to make yourself the victim. I never meant for this to happen, Rachel said quietly. Yes, you did. Maybe not consciously, but you made a series of choices that led exactly here. You chose to start an affair. You chose to lie about it. You chose to blame me for your unhappiness instead of taking responsibility for your own life. And now you're choosing to make this as ugly as possible because you can't handle the fact that your actions have consequences. The lawyer was taking notes, probably planning to use my words against me in court. I didn't care. I'll have my lawyer contact you, I told him. We can work out the details through proper channels. Daniel, wait, Rachel said as I started to close the door. Can we talk? Alone? I looked at my wife, soon to be ex-wife, and felt a flicker of the old affection. She looked small and lost, nothing like the confident woman who'd walked out of our house a week ago. There's nothing left to talk about, Rachel. You made your choice when you started sleeping with Ethan. I made mine when I stopped pretending it wasn't happening. But we could try again. We could go to counseling, work through this. Work through what? Your affair? Your lies? The fact that you only want to fix our marriage now that your boyfriend turned out to be exactly the kind of man I told you he was? Rachel flinched. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you told me I was controlling for wanting to know where my wife was spending her evenings? Was it fair when you made me feel like I was crazy for noticing that you'd checked out of our marriage? Was it fair when you blamed me for your unhappiness while you were sneaking around with another man? I was confused, she whispered. No, you were selfish. There's a difference. I closed the door and watched through the security camera as Rachel and her lawyer walked back to their car. She looked back at the house once, and I thought I saw her mouth the word, sorry. Too little, too late. The divorce proceedings took 3 months, which was 3 months longer than our marriage had been real. Rachel fought for everything: the house, the cars, half my retirement account, alimony. Her lawyer painted me as a controlling husband who had driven his wife into the arms of another man through emotional abuse and manipulation. My lawyer painted her as an unfaithful wife who had destroyed the marriage through her own choices and was now trying to profit from her betrayal. The truth, as usual, was somewhere in between. In the end, we split everything down the middle. Rachel got half the house's value, half our savings, and half our accumulated debt. She also got the satisfaction of telling everyone who would listen that I was the villain in our story. I got my freedom and the knowledge that I'd finally stopped letting someone else's dysfunction control my life. The final hearing was on a rainy Thursday in November. Rachel showed up in a black dress that made her look like she was attending a funeral, which I suppose she was. The funeral of a marriage that had been over for months before either of us admitted it. When the judge declared our marriage legally dissolved, Rachel started crying. Not the angry tears I'd seen so many times during our fights, but quiet, defeated sobs that made me feel something I hadn't expected: pity. Outside the courthouse, she approached me one last time. "I'm sorry," she said, "for all of it. For the affair, for the lies, for trying to make you the bad guy. I was scared and stupid, and I hurt you in ways I can't take back. I know. Do you think—" She hesitated, then forced herself to continue. "Do you think we could have made it work? If I hadn't screwed everything up?" I looked at my ex-wife, really looked at her, and tried to remember why I'd fallen in love with her in the first place. She'd been so full of life then, so ambitious and passionate about everything. Somewhere along the way, that passion had curdled into resentment, and that ambition had become a weapon she used against anyone who didn't give her what she wanted. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I don't think either of us was happy enough to find out." Rachel nodded, accepting the truth we'd both been avoiding for years. "What happens now?" "Now we move on. We build new lives. We try to be better people than we were when we were together." "Are you going to marry Olivia?" The question caught me off guard. "I don't know. Maybe. We're taking things slow." "She's good for you. She makes you laugh." "Yeah, she does." Rachel smiled through her tears. "I used to make you laugh." "You did, a long time ago. I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss you." "I'm going to miss who we used to be," I said, "before we became people who couldn't make each other happy." We stood there in the rain for another moment, two people who had loved each other once and had somehow forgotten how to do it without causing pain. "Goodbye, Daniel." "Goodbye, Rachel." I watched her walk away, her heels clicking on the wet pavement, her shoulders set in that determined posture I knew so well. She'd be fine eventually. Rachel always landed on her feet. As for me, I had a new life to build. A life where I didn't have to apologize for wanting honesty from the people I loved. A life where I didn't have to pretend that betrayal was somehow my fault. A life where I finally understood the difference between love and habit. 6 months later, Olivia and I were having dinner at that same restaurant where we'd planned Rachel's downfall. It felt different now, less like a war room and more like a place where two people could talk about their future without the shadow of someone else's dysfunction hanging over them. "Do you ever regret it?" Olivia asked. "The way we handled everything?" "Which part?" "The manipulation, the games, making her face consequences instead of just walking away cleanly." I thought about it seriously. Rachel's life had imploded spectacularly after our divorce. Ethan had indeed been fired from his job, though that had more to do with his pattern of inappropriate relationships than anything I'd done. Rachel had been forced to find a new position at a smaller agency for less money. Her social circle had largely abandoned her once the truth about her affair came out. She'd gotten exactly what she'd given, a taste of what it felt like to have your carefully constructed life fall apart because of choices you'd made. "No," I said finally. "I don't regret it. She needed to learn that actions have consequences, that you can't just hurt people and expect them to absorb it quietly." "And us? Do you regret how we started?" I reached across the table and took Olivia's hand. "We started as friends who were tired of watching someone we cared about destroy herself and everyone around her. We became something more because we actually like each other. I don't see anything to regret in that." Olivia smiled. "Good. Because I was thinking we might want to take another trip to Paris, just to see how it feels when we're not running a psychological operation." "I'd like that." As we left the restaurant, I thought about Rachel one last time. I wondered if she'd learned anything from the collapse of our marriage, if she'd figured out how to be happy without making other people miserable. I hoped so, not because I still loved her, but because everyone deserves the chance to become a better version of themselves, even people who've forgotten how to love without causing pain. The rain had stopped, and the city lights reflected off the wet streets like promises of better things to come. Olivia took my arm, and we walked toward whatever came next, leaving the wreckage of my first marriage behind us where it belonged. In the past, where all broken things eventually go to rest.